This conference will now be recorded.
So this is the common grid component like we have created in the our previous class. What we did was like I have some list of employees data. I'm just showing this employee data in the table format, like by using the ng for structural directives, and we have we have used the ng if also, like whenever if you don't have any data. Now my requirement was like, currently, like I have written this ng for ng if and everything in this common grid, right? Now my requirement was like I want to use this common grid as a reusable component. I mean uh, currently, like I'm just using in this particular page, right? Like I want to use the same table in other pages also. If you take in the real time scenarios, there will be chances, like for example, there will be chances of having the similar kind of grid in the multiple places. So at that time, we should not write the entire code. Like we should not create the entire table code in the multiple pages. To avoid that, we'll create one table, we'll create one component, so we should use that component as a common component, guys. How can we make this table as a one common component? Any idea? uh, for example, this is the problem. This is the problem given by your team lead, or assume like this is a task given by your manager. So he just asked you to make this component as a common component so that we can reuse this. How can you make it? Like any answers or any guess?
Sir, we can make it reusable, and then like by using the component communication, we can pass the data dynamically.
Okay. Okay, guys. Like I'll show you that. I'll show you how to make this as a reusable component. For example, we have the uh, common grid common grid component, right? Let us assume like this is having the uh, table structure. So this is the common grid component. This is having the table structure. Now I want to use this common grid in the multiple places. So multiple places. For example, I want to use in assume that like I want to use in employee page, and I want to use this in the dashboard page. Assume like employee page as a one component and dashboard page as a another component. So I want to use these two, like this table in these two page, like employee page and the dashboard page. For example, employee page, like I'll show the uh, list of list of employees in the table format. And the dashboard page, for example, I'll show the like list of uh, projects delivered. I just want to show the list of projects in the dashboard page, like where like I need to show the project information, like what is the project name and what is the project start date and end date, like how much percentage like we have covered, like is this project is completed or not, like I just want to show all those things in the this table format only. But the thing was like here the data will be different. For employees, it will be having the employee data, and for the dashboard page, like it will be having the projects data. But the table structure will be similar. Like it will be similar. The columns and data will be changed. So if you want to make this one, like I just want to make this common grid as a reusable, means like I will take this as a one table component, and I'll pass the data from the employee page to the common grid, so that the data will be dynamic, and so we can view the dynamic data in the table. Let me show you with a small example. Now we are using this common grid, right? So in the common grid, what we have done in the previous session was like I have created one employees array. Inside that employees array, we have the five employees data. So I am iterating this employees data in the HTML like by using this ng for structural directive, and we are displaying it. Now my problem was like now instead of employees data, I got some project information. So which is also having some similar kind of columns like serial number, project name, and the project ID, and the project department or the project status. So for in that scenario, I don't want to create one more table. I just want to reuse this. For that, what I will do is like I will remove this employees data from here. So because this I want to use this table in the multiple places, right? So this data will be a dynamic. So what I will do is like I'll remove this one, or I'll comment this one. Now this is the common grid component, right? What I'll do is like I'll create one more component called like employee. For the employee page, I'll create one more component called employee. How to create the component in Angular?
ng generate component name.
Yes, exactly. So, ng G for generate and C for component. I'll give its a component name as a employee. So once if you create this component, as we discussed earlier, like we'll be getting the four files, right? Like one is the component TS file, and we have the view for the HTML, and we have the SCSS for the styling, and we have the spec.ts for the unit testing file. Like once it is created, like I'll show you like how to pass the data from employee component to the common grid. So, now like it's got created like with the four files. Now we'll move to the Visual Studio Code. So inside the app, I mean we have the employee component. So now what I'll do was like I'll I'll remove this data and I'll paste in the employee component. This is the interface, right? Like I employee. So we are getting the error because like we have not imported in this component. Let me import this one also. So in the common grid, like we have imported the I employee interface. Yeah, this one. Guys, please let me know like if you are unable to follow. So now I have this employee data. Now I want to show this employee data in the common grid. So what I will do was like I will take it as a common grid selector. For example, let me take this one. This app.common grid selector is there, right? So I'll take this in the employee.component.html because like I want to pass the data from the employee component to the common grid. Guys, this is fine, right? Like because now I have the data in the employee component. Now I want to pass this data from employee component to the common grid component. For that reason, like I'm using the app common grid selector in the employee component. Now, so if you want to pass the data, for example, here the employee, we can consider this employee component as a parent component and the common grid as a child component, because like inside the employee component, like I am using the app.common common grid, right? So we can consider this as a one child component. Now I want to pass the data from the parent to child. So we are passing data from parent component to child component. So if you want to share the data from the parent component to child component, so we are going to use the @input decorator. So I'll show you like how the @input decorator works. So we have we have added the app common grid selector. Now I want to pass the data from employees component to this component, right? So I'll for the input, if you want to pass the data from like parent to child, like we'll be using the property binding. Like I'll take it as a employees equals to uh, employee data. Guys, here the syntax is very easy, like it's very easy. So this is the input property and this is the employee data. This employee data, like we have in the our employee TS class, like this is the property. So we are having this data, right? We are having this data in the employee component. So that's why like I have taken this as a employee data here. So this is the property. This is the input property. We need to define inside the app.common.grid. So I am passing data from the employee component to the app.common grid, right? So this name should be defined inside the app.common common grid with the input decorator. Like I'll show you. I'll go to the common grid. Now I'll define one input property by using the @input decorator. @input. So I'll name it as employees. I'll give its type as like I have removed this one, right? I'll give the same interface. So @input. So now this is the basic syntax, like @input. So I am going to give the property. So in the employee component, I have defined its name as employees, right? So we should give this name only. So employees, and its type as like I'll give it as a interface employee, because it is having the array of objects, right? Like inside the array, like we have the multiple employees, right? That's why I have given as array notation. So here it is expecting to initialize the some value. So to overcome this error, so I'll just add as this exclamation mark. So now I'll check whether we are getting the employee data from the parent component to child component. For that, what I'll do was I'll just do console.log this dot employees, so that like we can check whether we are getting the data from the employee component to the common grid component. Guys, will this works? So we have made the all the changes, like will this works, like have you missed anything? We didn't get the output, guys.
We just consoled the data. We haven't bind the data now.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
We need to
Actually, we
interpret
haven't.
the grid.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Just we console the data only now. We haven't provided the data to grid.
Yeah, okay. Forget about the grid. At least I should. We should get the data in the console, right?
Yeah.
See, if I check here na common grid.component.ts. So we are getting this data as undefined. I mean, still, I mean, we have consoled it, right? Like, I mean, why we are getting this data as undefined?
Sir, by that time it could not able to access that this dot employees file while creating the component.
Okay. Any other answers? Like in real time, like I mean, you may get this kind of errors or this kind of scenarios.
We have used that input decorator in this employee component now. Can we use
Okay.
output decorator to get the data? Is that
No,
correct?
no. It's not like that.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, output decorator, like we can see the later, but like I want to, I mean, I want to just get this data in the app.common grade. So we are missing something here. I mean, I just want to find out. I mean, I just want to answer from you guys because I mean, I have seen like
Injecting, you have to inject something.
sorry,
You have to inject in app module.
app module. Yeah, we have already. I mean, once it's gets created, no. So employee component is already added
Oh,
to the declaration
okay,
array.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
and until here, this is correct. I mean, I have seen like I mean, most of the people are working. I mean, like it can be like 6 months or like 1 year experience. Uh, okay, guys, like here, I mean, we have done everything, but we have. I mean, I'll tell you the answer. Like we have missed the basic thing. So I mean, you people are. I mean, you people are
Importing,
thinking in a different way. Sorry.
importing,
Huh?
importing at the rate input.
Input like we have defined right in the common grid like I have defined at the rate input and the I mean syntax as everything is correct right. Guys, I'll tell you the answer. The basic thing was like so I have just created the employee component. I mean I have created and we have done the I mean passing the data from the employee component to the common grid component. The mistake or the error was like I have just created the employee component, but I am not using this employee component. I mean, what does this mean? Well, like, so if I want to view the employee content or employee data, I should use this one, right? I should use this in app component, right? So I am not using the selector in the app component. I mean, I just created the employee component. I am passing data from the employee component to the common grid component. But like we are not calling this employee component at all. Like let me uh, show you in the app component. See, in the app component, like we have the basic HTML tags and we have the, I mean, app.common grid here. So, but like we are not calling the employee component. So because of that, like we are getting this error. I mean, we are not at all calling that component. So let me call that component. So app employee. So I mean, whenever if you're having the routing, no, so we can define different routes and so we can use it. But like currently we have only one root component, right? App component. So we should call this I mean app employee selector here. So because of this, we are not getting the output. Let me add this one. Now we'll see the output. Now we can see now we got the output and like in the console also we can see the output like see I mean we have added that console right. So in the array we are having the I mean 5 employees list. So now here the I mean what we have achieved was like like in the we have created one more component. So we are passing the data from this employee component. So in the similar way I can create one more component called dashboard component. So dashboard component will be having the different dashboard data, but the table structure will be like same like table structure. This table structure will be similar. So I am going to reuse this table in the multiple places. So like to achieve or like to do these kind of things, so we are going to use the we are going to share the data from one component to the another component. So at the rate input is the one way of sharing the data between from one component to the another component. So in the interviews, no, like they will ask, how do you communicate between the components? For example, I have the two components. I want to communicate between the two components. Sir, what is meant by the communication is nothing. Here, the communication is nothing but, so I just want to share data from the one component to the another component data. We have seen like that, right? So I have some data in the employee component, and I have passed uh, this data to the common grid by using the like at the rate input. So they will ask like these kind of questions like how will the interaction from one component to the another component. So to pass the data from the like parent to child, we'll be using the at the rate component. At the rate input decorator. Guys, any doubts until here? I'll explain once again. It is very easy. Don't get confused. So I have two components. So one is the employee component and another one is the common grid. Common consider this is a table component. So now I want to pass the data from the employee component to the common grid. Sir, why should I pass the data? Means like I just want to use this table structure in the multiple components. So I want the data should be dynamic and the table structure should be in the common grid. So data is coming from the employee component, right? So what I did was, I mean, I have just taken one array, so array of employees data. So array inside the array, we have the object, like each employee will be having the different properties and names, right? Like employee name, employee ID, employee department. So now I want to pass this data from employee component to the common grid. For that, if you want to pass the data, so we should use the whatever the component selector, we should use the app common grid, and the you should use the selector, and we should pass the data by using the at the rate input decorator. So we'll take it as like this. So syntax I'll tell you. So this is the input property, in input property, and this is the data. Data, uh, data from the current component. So in the employee component, we have the employee data, right? And the input property, we should define these employees in the this app common grid. So we have defined this in the app common grid by using at the rate input decorator. Guys, once if I use this at the rate input decorator, now automatically, like we are importing this from the Angular core. So once if you add this one, automatically it will import from the Angular core, and I have given its name as employees. For example, now I'll change this name to employee. Now we can see the error here, like so can't bind to employee, since it is not a known property of the app common grid. So what it is throwing was like employees uh, input property was not defined in the app.common grid. That's why it is throwing. So this property name and this input property in the common grid should be same, so then only it will work. So we have passed data from the employee component to this one. I have one more question here. Sir, now we have passed the employees data. Sir, can I pass one more data? Is it only for single data, or can we pass the multiple data? Means like we can pass. For example, I want to pass one more property. For example, I just want to pass the columns also. Now in the common grid component, no, we have this columns array also, right? For employee component, like these are the columns. For example, if I takes for the project data, so project data, it might be having the different like project name and the project ID and the project status, project start date. So I want to make this is also dynamic. So what I will do is I'll remove this from here. So in the employee component, here we can pass the multiple, we can define the multiple input properties and we can pass it. So I'll define as a columns. I'll take one more property equals to, I'll give it as a column data. So I have given this as a column data, right? This property should be present in the employee component.ts, then only we can pass the data. So I have copied that. I'll paste here columns, right? I'll rename it to column data. Now here we are getting the error because we have not defined this property in the app.common grid. So whenever if you take the one more property here, it should be present in the app.common grid. Now we'll define this inside the app.common grid. So we have one input property, right? In the similar way, I'll take one more, like @input columns. I'll take it as its type as any, because like we have not defined the interface for that. Now we can see like we are like, now we'll console the columns also to check whether we are getting the proper data or not. Console.log this dot columns. I'll save this employee component also. No, we didn't get the columns data. We got some error. We are getting undefined. Guys, any answers for this one? So we got the employee data, but like we are not getting the column data. Can you people think and provide me the answer? I mean, where we have done the mistake. So I have defined as a column data here. Now I am passing this column data using
See, you didn't
the
save the sir. You didn't
sorry,
save the. You didn't save the
which one?
component employee component HTML.
This one? Okay, correct. So now we got the columns. So I have not saved the file. So that's why like we didn't. I mean, it does not recognize the input property, and we didn't get the output. So this is how like we'll be making this table structure as a one component. Now what I'll do is like I'll create one more component, ng generate. For example, I'll make it as a dashboard. So in the dashboard, a similar way, like we can create the common data. I mean, we can create the common data in the dashboard page, and we can pass the from dashboard page to the common grid. Guys, any questions until here? I mean, any difficulty like while using the right input property?
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, like we are passing like all the columns, like from the employee component, from the dashboard component, we have passing the same 6. But instead like from dashboard, we want to pass only 3 to 4 columns.
Okay.
So some of the columns may be optional. So how it will work in that case?
In that case, like here like we need to make this grid also dynamic.
Okay, sir.
Now okay, I'll show you with that also. Now here like I have taken the 6 TDs, right? This table data.
Okay, yes, sir.
we'll make this table data is also dynamic based on the its data. For example, like for
Length, sir.
employee data, sorry.
Based on the length, we have to create.
Yes, correct. I mean, from the employees component, no, like we are having like six properties, right? So whenever if you pass the three properties, so like based on this employee data, we should make this table data is also dynamic. So basically, I mean, so in the real time, no, whenever if you're going to work with this table kind of structures, no, like most of the times, like we'll be using the some third-party libraries. Like we are not going to create this simple tables because like whenever if you're going to use the common grid, no, it should provide the all the options like I mean sorting and like filtering and the pagination, and if I want to download the data using the PDF or CSV or Excel, so it should provide the all those kind of features. So if you want to implement all these things manually, like it will take some effort. So like in the real time, like we are going to use some third party libraries like the I mean AG grid. Actually, AG grid. I mean, if you have the, I mean, if you have the, I mean, complex grid, no, so so we are going to use these kind of things. So it this framework or this library it will provide all the options like whatever you have asked, no. So this column names like we can define dynamically, and this row data also we can define dynamically, and it has all the features like we can do a lot of options. Like this is the one framework, and we have the one more like Prime NG. So here also like we'll be having a lot of options like predefined options, whether it can be grid or the form elements or some panels, buttons. Let me show you here table. See here like we'll be having. I mean we are going to use these frameworks. So in the real time scenarios. Guys, can we take this as an assignment? Like you try to create one more component and try to pass the data. And I mean, if you face any errors or anything, no, you can ping in the group. Guys, like I'll wind up the today's session because like I have one more meeting at 9:10. Tomorrow we'll discuss about the I mean at the rate output decorator, and like I mean we'll discuss the like how to share the data between like from by using the service also, like whenever the components are not related, so we are going to use the common service, and we are going to pass the data from the one component to the other component. We'll discuss that in tomorrow's class, guys.
Okay, sir.